It's quite interesting how it was just announced by one of the Hollywood scoopers that another Jurassic World Rebirth, whatever the heck they're going to call it, movie starring Scarlett Johansson is now in the works, okay? Apparently Universal is more than happy with the $850 million, the first Jurassic World movie, and not to break $1 billion. They're fine with that direction. I'm just wondering if, Chris Pratt is going to turn up in order to help the most successful actress of all time get it back into that 10-digit club. But we'll see, but yeah. But now that Universal, and Scarlett Johansson specifically, are riding high after winning the summer, even though that's like riding the short bus and standing up and saying, I got a 60 IQ. Not like you're really winning anything, but it's enough of a victory in order to kick dirt on her former employer, who is currently down in the dumps, by dragging up a name that, well, I haven't heard in a very long time. Actually, that's not entirely fair, because everybody seems to be kicking Disney and coming forward with their horror stories working in phases 4 and 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So yes, Black Widow. Black Widow we're talking about once again, as the movie we got was sanitized. ScarJo's original vision was much darker and more feminist. Oh, great, because, well, we kind of got some insight on... It was supposed to be a darker story to begin with, and some of the comics, I'm not entirely familiar with all of Black Widow's history from the books. But yeah, she does some crazy shit, okay? Takes out, let's just say, quite a few NAMBLA members in one specific run. Stops over at Comet Pizza to take care of a couple of brothers, but he also had Ray Winstone, last month, shooting the shit on Black Widow, yes, on the reshoot, saying Marvel, takes away from getting cultural films made. Yeah, it's all about selling tickets, and how his character of Dreykov, okay, I worked with this amazing director, Cate Shortland, and we worked on what my character was going to be. He was like a pedo, yes, running around all these girls, and then he'd and they'd become Black Widows. We used to get applauded on set. It was probably the best thing I've done in a really long time. And then he eventually got called for reshoots because they wanted to go ahead and redo everything. So yeah, we kind of heard that there's a good chance that, there was probably a darker, grittier story that's there. And yeah, that would have been, I'm not going to say it was going to be good by any means, because everything that came out of phases 4 and 5 were absolute dog shit. But could it have been better? It would have been different. I'll go ahead and settle on that one, but let's see what the other side of this is. Okay, so the Black Widow movie that audiences got was apparently a much different story than the one originally conceived. The message, a phrase coined by, yes, YouTube star, the critical drinker, is a phrase audiences have come to know well. Yes, it's about putting ideology above storytelling, the long story short. So it was during this period that the Me Too movement took hold. And movies significantly started to take a downturn in on and around 2015 or so. I would argue that it was a lot earlier than that, but yeah, when things became too obvious to ignore, yeah, okay, we'll just go ahead and settle right around the Trump ascendancy. That was probably, when there was a big crack in the minds of a lot of Hollywood people, and because of J.J. Abrams' wife and Anthony Bourdain's ex-wife doing the whole Me Too shit, yeah, that probably kicked things into overdrive. But drawing significant attention to alleged, yes, abuses of power in Hollywood, that was more or less just a bunch of cackling, talentless hens just seeing other men succeeding, and then breaking some verbal contracts and going back on their word in order to put themselves in positions of power. And now that we're a decade on from that big purge, are we in a better place for it? Well, it's apparently safer. I guess that's that's not. Anyways, Marvel's Black Widow reflected those influences, okay? The clear parallels to Harvey Weinstein's scandal dominating the headlines at the time of the film's production. Yeah, because the Black Widow production, oh boy, to say it was troubled, would be a bit of an understatement. So yeah, this film has been worked on for a very, very, very long time, and it unfortunately came out very, very, very late in the MCU's life cycle. It would have been a Marvel's level bomb had it not been the first film to come out in Phase 4, I guarantee it. The audiences certainly picked up on those undertones, and new reports suggest that the movie was originally conceived to be even more darker and more overt in its messaging. Yeah, you have Ray Winstone and his comments, obviously. We just went over that. After the initial filming wrapped and hit the editing room, Marvel executives weren't pleased with what they were seeing, and he got calls for reshoots. I got a call saying we need to do some reshoots. I say, how many scenes? Kate says, all of them. So I said she should just recast the role, and I was contracted, so I had to do so. I had to go back. I had to do my hair all nice. They put me in a suit, and I couldn't do it. I'm already done. Winstone was apparently heartbroken that the original performance hit the cutting room floor, and there's nothing worse than doing something leaving it on the floor and then being told it's just not right. But then we get, yes, said director Cate Shortland, who left the production because Marvel wasn't allowing her to direct direct the action scenes, if I recall correctly, but yes, produced by ScarJo and directed by Cate Shortland. Black Widow was initially set to debut on May 1st, 2020, but was pushed back several times due to lockdowns and closures, meaning it was shot and produced at the height of the Me Too era. Both Cate and Scarlett leaned heavily into this with their initial treatment of the Black Widow and narrative. Okay. In an interview with Empire magazine in August of 2020, Johansson stated, I think this film in particular is very much reflective of what's going on in regards to the Time's Up movement and the Me Too movement. It would be such a miss if we didn't address that stuff, if this film didn't take that head on. I think particularly for Cate, it was important for her to make a movie about women who are helping other women. Yeah, kind of like Rachel Weisz's character, who is helping women by developing all of these programs and torture methods for those other women. And then she ultimately got off at the end of the film scot-free because of when it's all said and done, she's a woman, so we can't hold her accountable for any of her actions. But someone asked me if Natasha was a feminist. Of course she is. It's obvious. It's kind of an asinine question. Ugh. So when you compare and contrast that with it's kind of devoid of characters, plotting, and world building, and talking about Jurassic World Rebirth. Scarlett Johansson going over there and doing the Dinosaur movies, yeah, that kind of makes a lot more sense for what her sensibilities are right now. She can just be a vapid plank of wood whose most desirable assets, even into her 40s, are just clamped down, covered up, and she can go ahead and try to be a badass action star. She wants to lament the way that she was treated in Marvel, especially during her character's introduction in Iron Man 2, when she was dancing around in between shots, just soaking up all of the attention of the men on set. Now she can just do that classic feminist ladder pull that she ascended to the level that she's at right now. She is known the world over and is a legit movie star, but she doesn't want anybody else to succeed the way that she did, because that's not very feminist. That's not very fair to the young women aspiring to so much more. No, because if you had to succeed on your laurels and climb the ladder on your acting talent, yeah, Black Widow would still have a boob window. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.